Thank you all for coming. My name is Skip Paul, and I am an appliance architect at Novell within our Linux division. And what we're talking about today are virtual appliances and then some of the tools that Novell has to enable you to build out those appliances for your cloud environment. So before we get going, I want to do a little bit of get a little bit of knowledge about who's here in the audience. So how many people here know what an appliance is? How many people use Linux today? It could be SUSE, Red Hat, whatever. Cool. So the neat thing about the tool that we're going to show, which is SUSE Studio, is that regardless of whether you're familiar with Linux or you haven't used it at all, everybody in this room is going to be able to build out a Linux-based virtual appliance by the end of the show. So the agenda for today is we're going to start off talking about virtual appliances, what kind of value they bring to your environment, regardless of whether you're an ISV or whether you are an enterprise customer. So do we have any people that work for software companies here? And I guess the rest of you are just regular enterprise customers. So we're going to be talking about how appliances fit into both roles, regardless of whether you're selling the software or whether you are in the position to consume it. After that, we're talking about one of the really big values of appliances, which is their ability to bridge your traditional environment into your new cloud-based environment. Get in and talk about some of the tools that Novell has specifically within this market. I'm going to do a demonstration. So if we have technical people here, you're bored with the slides, stick around for the demo. It's going to be really neat, I promise. After that, we'll tie it together and explain how this fits in with Novell's strategy as a company from a macro level. So today, most people's enterprises fit somewhere on the left side of the screen here. You have some software which is sitting on top of an operating system. In some cases, that operating system is running locally on the hardware itself. In other cases, it's virtualized on top of some sort of a hypervisor. We're seeing this moving more towards a more complex environment. And the reason for this is around several different business drivers. The ability to be able to ramp up capacity when you need it, the ability to save money. And so in the future, you're going to have the same environment that you have today, but it's going to be augmented with things such as private clouds, external clouds. You may be consuming some software as a service as well. And what this is really doing is it is increasing the complexity that people have to deal with. The reason for this is that enterprises want the ability to have flexibility as far as where they deploy their workloads. For some things, it may make sense to deploy it in an external cloud. Perhaps they're due to seasonal demand, they need more capacity, or they're looking for platforms that are less expensive. In general, all businesses today, due to the economy, are really trying to save money. And so this really enables people to be able to save costs. But at the same time, they still have mission-critical applications, which may be running internally on an internal cloud, or if you have something like a database or something that really requires to be run on top of bare metal, you're still going to have physical machines as well. And so while the business wants the ability to choose where they deploy their workloads, they don't want to give up what they have today, which is the ability to easily manage their environment, the ability to meet regulatory compliance requirements, and the ability to be fully supported. Here are some of the challenges that we see present in the market today. On the enterprise side, complexity is a major issue. So today when you go out and you buy a new piece of software, there's a certain amount of ramp-up time between when you actually acquire the software, you install the operating system, you install the software, you do all of the necessary configuration, and it takes a long time before you actually start realizing the business value of your investment. As I said, everyone's trying to lower their budget, but at the same time, they want to be able to provide a flexible environment for the business. On the ISV side, on the software seller side, we're seeing issues as well. So personally, when I go in and I do a proof of concept at a customer site, it takes a lot of time. And the reason why is you have to go in, you have to install the operating system and go in and configure it and make sure that it fits into whatever the customer's environment is. And so this really leads to very long sales cycles. Other issues are around scalable customization. So every client seems to think that they are a unique snowflake. And so as a result, they need some sort of customized software that will fit perfectly in their environment. But the problem is, from our perspective, is that it takes a lot of time for us to go in and to build something that will specifically suit their needs. And from a supportability standpoint, if you have a one-off custom job, how are you going to support that moving forward? What is your upgrade path for being able to have that software? So what is the answer to all these problems? I'm sure you can all guess because this is a session about appliances, but ta-da, appliances are the solution. So appliances come in several different form factors. You can have ones that will run on top of bare metal, ones that ship with the hardware itself, but really the one that we're seeing the most traction with is virtual appliances. So the concept of an appliance is that you have the applications, the configuration, and the operating system all bundled together in one unit. And this offers a number of benefits from either an ISV perspective or from a consumer perspective. IDC is saying that this is a growing market. By 2012, it's going to be a $1.2 billion market. It's currently growing at about 86% annually. The benefits of appliances from an enterprise perspective is that it decreases the amount of time between when you buy the software and when you're able to actually start realizing value out of it. You don't have to worry about going in and making various configurations to the operating system, various configurations. Rather, you just put it in, make a couple of changes so that it fits in perfectly with your environment, and you're able to start running with it from there. From an ISV perspective, it dramatically cuts down the sales cycle. We no longer have to worry about supportability issues because we have a platform where you're able to start with a very minimal build, and you're able to clone it and then add in a couple of different customizations so that it fits in perfectly for the customer environment. And from a support perspective, because you are bundling everything in together, support knows basically what the environment is before the customer even calls the support number. You know the operating system, you know the default parameters that it was configured with, you know the software that was on top of it. And so it makes it a lot easier to be able to support that. Right now, the early adopters of appliances are in the small to medium-sized market. But we're seeing larger enterprises that are really starting to adopt this more quickly. The applications that were initially selected are things such as web infrastructure, application development, IT infrastructure. But we're seeing more of the business-critical applications, such as business applications, data warehousing and analysis, that are the fastest-growing appliances that people are shipping. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. We'll have to keep this as interactive as possible. So, yes, question? What are the barriers? So he's asking what the barriers are for larger enterprises into adopting appliances. I think the reason why we're seeing the largest amount of adoption with the small to medium-sized businesses is that they were particularly constrained, both from a budgetary standpoint and also from a personnel standpoint. So if you don't have a lot of people, by having an appliance which is pretty much ready to go out of the box, you don't have to worry about spending a lot of time to actually start getting things up and running. I think larger enterprises, because they have larger staffs, it hasn't been as much of an issue for them. Now with the economy the way it is and everyone looking to cut costs and be able to deliver things quicker, I think that's starting to push the adoption in that space. So one of the major benefits of appliances is that it really enables you to be able to bridge your existing environment to the new cloud environment. Pretty much everybody that is presenting at VMworld, I'm sure, will have a slide that looks something like this. The takeaway here is that currently most of the market is still running on top of physical hardware, but according to analysts, by 2015, it's going to be swapped, and for the most part, people are going to be running on some sort of a virtualized platform. So the question is, what kind of investments do you make now so that the software that you buy is easily going to be able to be ported over into your new virtual or cloud-based environment? The reason why appliances are particularly well suited for this is because, by definition, they are self-contained. So you're able to take what you have running today, and because it is self-contained, be able to pick it up and move it into your new environment. Linux itself is showing itself to be the premier operating system within the cloud, and there are a number of reasons for this. This is actually, I think, the longest I've ever given a presentation before I said anything about Linux. From a technical perspective, the main feature of Linux is that it's very modular. So because of the way that Linux is developed, because it is open source and you have people throughout the world that are contributing to it, it has to be modular by nature, right? It has to have people be able to contribute code to certain portions of it, irrespective of what other people are doing. And for an appliance, this works very well because you're able to select only the specific bits that you need, and this will enable you to have a very small appliance and a very quick running appliance. From a business perspective, the reason why Linux is very good for making appliances is licensing. So all the software that comes in SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is open source, and so that means that you don't have to worry about licensing. So people are able to build appliances based on top of a Linux platform, and they're able to freely distribute it as much as they want. Now, obviously, when you give this to businesses that are running this in production, you start to worry about things such as support and getting updates to it, and that is why we are where we are today, because we are providing that support. Yes?
Well, with the adoption in more of a regulated customer base with open source, the security officers have challenges with open source. You bring it in. What is your perception of that adoption?
Gotcha. He wants me. So, got you. So these are being recorded, so they want you to come up and ask the questions in the microphone. But it's fine. I can just repeat your question. So the question that he was asking is he wants to know how open source jives with security and how it works in some sort of a regulated environment. Is that more or less it? So I would say that Linux itself and open source isn't a problem. If you look at something like SE Linux that was specifically developed by the NSA, and so Linux is used in a lot of use cases where security is key. Personally, I've done a lot of work in the retail segment, and so retailers, for any of you that don't know, if you take credit cards, there's something that you have to comply with called PCI. And so I have a customer that has specifically adopted Linux to be able to increase the security at their stores, and they're saying that they're actually able to more easily pass a PCI audit with Linux-based platforms than they are with other proprietary platforms that were traditionally in the store. So I would say that in general, security is actually one of the main selling points of open source and specifically Linux. So one of the things that we are really excited to be announcing today and this week at VMworld is we have a new groundbreaking partnership with VMware. And so this is going to be relevant to every single person that is at the show today, and the reason why is that moving forward, as of Wednesday, VMware is going to be including a copy of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server with every copy of vSphere that is shipped. And along with that, VMware has also decided that they are going to be basing all of their Linux-based appliances on top of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. And for SUSE-based appliances, they are recommending SUSE Studio, which is the tool that we have for being able to build out appliances. Yes, question? So he's asking how it differs from VMware Studio. So VMware Studio is still around, and they are recommending that for other operating systems, but specifically for SUSE Linux, they are recommending SUSE Studio. Is that right, Aaron? Yes. You can choose depending on what suits your needs best. Personally, I think SUSE Studio is the best, and that's what I'm going to show you guys. Along with this, you're also able to get support for both your VMware environment and your SUSE environment from VMware. So this means that if you call them with a support issue, regardless of whether it's an issue with the hypervisor or whether it's a problem with the operating system, one spot for you to be able to go to and to be able to get support. We have a number of different pieces of software that tie into our cloud and into our appliance-based strategy. I'm not going to stand here and read through all of them. Really, the most exciting one that we have is SUSE Studio, which is part of the Appliance Toolkit. So with the Appliance Toolkit, you get SUSE Studio as well as SLMS, which is SUSE Lifecycle Management Server, which is software we have to enable you to be able to manage the appliances that you build. So if you're an ISV, this is going to enable you to mirror the updates from Novell for the operating system, as well as being able to create a channel for the independently developed software applications that are included in your appliance and be able to very easily push those updates down to your customers. We also have a piece of software in the appliance toolkit called WebYast. And so for anyone that's familiar with SUSE, this is the web-based version of YAST. If you're not familiar with SUSE or you're not familiar with Linux, it's basically a web-based configuration tool so that when you get an appliance, you don't have to know anything about Linux. You just open up your web browser, go to the appropriate URL, and you're able to do basic customization of the operating system like IP address and firewall information, updates, et cetera, et cetera. So SUSE Studio is the tool that we have for being able to build out appliances. If you are more of a traditional enterprise customer, it's a tool for being able to make gold builds. And the benefit of SUSE Studio is that it enables you to build a very optimized platform for your workloads, regardless of whether or not you know a lot about Linux. So with SUSE Studio, you start with something called JUICE, which stands for Just Enough Operating System. And with that, it's the operating system itself is only about 270 megabytes. And so the idea is you start with just the bare minimum that you need to be able to have a system that will start up and do something. Literally, it won't do anything fun at all because it is the bare minimum that is required. But you use SUSE Studio to be able to add applications to it so that it will be customized specifically for the workload you're running. So the business benefits of going down this path are several. Number one, the smaller build you have, the easier it is to be able to deploy. From a management perspective, the fewer packages that you have installed on your system, the fewer packages you have to worry about updating from either a bug issue or from a security issue. Also, from a performance perspective, the fewer extraneous processes that you have running, obviously, the quicker the system is going to run. When you know that you're going to be running this on top of a hypervisor where it's sharing physical resources with the other virtual machines, being able to run very efficiently makes it a much better citizen. We've had a lot of success with it. SUSE Studio has been out for about a year at this point. We've won a number of different awards. We have hundreds of thousands of appliances that have already been built. We have people in both the ISV community as well as the enterprise community that are leveraging this. There are two different versions of SUSE Studio. There's SUSEstudio.com, which is a free hosted service provided by Novell. So everyone can go there today and sign up for an account and be able to build your Linux-based appliances. We also have an on-site version. So SUSE Studio on-site enables you to be able to do the same thing that you do with SUSEstudio.com, only everything is going to be run on a machine that is behind your firewall that you own. And with that, let's get into the demo. Yes? Question?
As you're adding packages to the Just Enough OS, is there any index of licensing available?
What do you mean an index of licensing?
Linux is made up of hundreds of different sources. Each one has its own license, GPL, GPL2, Apache. As I'm adding things using this, if I know what packages it's added, do I know the associated license by chance?
No, you can generate a list of all the packages that are installed, obviously, but we don't have any tool built into SUSE Studio to specifically show you the different licenses that are in it. I believe if you get the SLES installation media, we have a file on there which has all the different licenses, open source licenses that you accept, but it doesn't have it broken down based on packages, I don't believe. But if that's something that's important to you, then we can work with you to get that. So as you see, I'm running Linux desktop here, and I just have Google Chrome open. And I'm doing this demo actually off of SUSEstudio.com today. So once you sign in, this is the user interface that you are presented with. If you want to create a new appliance, it's very easy. You just come here, and click Create New Appliance. And from here, you're able to choose from a number of different templates, either OpenSUSE or SUSE Linux Enterprise. This is where you choose just enough operating system. But if you wanted to have a graphical-based environment, something perhaps that you would run in a kiosk, you could choose GNOME or, heaven forbid, KDE. No response for that? Generally, I get things thrown at me when I put down KDE. So for the sake of time, rather than creating a new appliance, I'm going to pick one that I already have open. So, as with most things in Western civilization, the interface for SUSE Studio is from top to bottom and left to right. You can see that by default, the amount of space used by the initial just enough operating system build is 380 megabytes. Under the Software tab, you define specifically which pieces of software are going to be installed on the appliance itself. By default, we have a number of different repositories that are added. These are the installation source for SUSE, as well as the updates for it. So this means that when you're building an appliance, it's going to be based on the latest updates to SUSE itself. If you have applications that you want to add to this that are not in the distribution, so if you're an ISV and you are writing your own applications, or if you have homegrown applications, or if you just want to consume, say, software from SAP, you have the ability to create your own repository or just simply upload the packages themselves. So for people that are not familiar with Linux, RPM is just the packaging software that we use within the SUSE distribution. You can see the selected software appears here. And to add additional software, you have the ability to come through and go through the different groups and select out specifically the software you want, or you can just come in and do a search for it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to turn just enough operating system into a Apache web server that will work with .NET. So what we're going to do is add the Apache mod mono module to it. And you see what it's done is it's gone down and it has added 56 megabytes to the total size of my build. When I click View Details, it's showing all the different dependencies that it's doing. So one of the nice things about SUSE Studio is that once you choose a piece of software that you are going to want to install, it will automatically go out and it will look to see what other pieces of software are required in order for that to work on top of your system itself. It does the dependency resolution for you. If for some reason you know that you're not going to be using WinForms, you don't need it, you can come in and ban it, and that software will not be installed on your build. So Mono itself is an interesting piece of software. What Mono is the open source implementation of the .NET framework. And what this allows you to do is to be able to run .NET applications on top of your Linux platform. So this is going to allow me to actually run ASP.NET applications on top of my Apache web server. So once you're done configuring all the software, or adding all the software that you need to your appliance, you next go through the various configuration phases. So the first step is coming in and defining your location, what your time zone is, other information such as networking information, firewall information, users and groups, what the password is going to be. The default password is Linux. You have the ability to come in and personalize this. So if you're an ISV and you want to have your logo show up as the system is booting up, you have the ability to do that here. The Startup tab defines which run level you want it to start up in. So for people that aren't familiar with Linux, whether you want it to be a terminal-based system, whether you want it to start up into a full graphical user environment. If you have a EULA for your software that you want people to accept before they're able to run the appliance, you have the ability to add it in here. No, we won't do that. If you want to include a database in the appliance, you can come in and, for example, select Postgres. And what it's going to do here, give it a second, is it should display a warning telling me that I haven't installed the Postgres packages. And in order for this to work, obviously you have to have the packages installed. So this is some of the neat stuff that SUSE Studio does, is that as you're going through and actually building out your appliances, it's checking to make sure if you're making any sort of errors before you move forward, before you actually go and spend the time to make the build. Come back and we will. So if you want to have a system where it automatically logs in, this is where you would come and you would select which user you wanted to have it automatically start. I ran into someone at VMware Partner Exchange, and they said they actually built a VMware View-based appliance. And so what they wanted to be able to do is to build out an appliance that they would install on a USB stick, have people be able to plug in the USB stick to any computer in the world, have it boot up, automatically log in as a user, automatically auto-start the VMware View client, and connect to their connection broker in full screen mode. So basically, the user would have no idea that they're actually booting from a Linux-based appliance, because it doesn't matter. They're just connecting directly into their virtual desktop. This tab allows you to do a number of different configurations to the appliance. If it's going to be running on top of a virtual platform, you can configure how much memory is going to be assigned to it and the size of the disk. Configure swap information, as well as configure LVMs if you want to have Logical Volume Manager. We also have the ability to run customized scripts. So the way that SUSE Studio works is it's based on an open source imaging technology called Kiwi. And if you're familiar with some of the other SUSE products, this is the same imaging technology that we have to build things such as SUSE Linux Enterprise Point of Sale, as well as SUSE Linux Enterprise Thin Client. And so all SUSE Studio is doing is really just a pretty web interface for calling to Kiwi. And the way that Kiwi works to be able to build out an image is you first provide Kiwi with a file which tells it which software packages you're going to install, how you want it configured, the various configuration information which we've gone through here. After you do that, you give it an installation source, so you give it actual software to be able to install. And it will create a directory on your system which has all of the different directories which are going to end up being in your appliance itself. After you do the prepare, the next phase is it does the creation. And so it actually creates the file system image itself on the system, and it transfers all of those files directly into the image itself. And so the script here is the images.sh script that runs after you've done that. So this enables you to do specific customizations to your appliance. And you can do that either the first time the system boots, you can do it every time the system boots. Once you're done doing the configuration, you can come in and do your build. And so here is where you decide what sort of appliance is this going to be. In this case, I've chosen to build out a VMware-based appliance. You have the option to build out other hypervisors as well. The ability to build out an image that will run on top of physical hardware itself, such as a hard disk on your server, or in the VMware View case, it was running off of a bootable USB stick. We also have the ability to do a live CD or DVD, so every time it boots off of the CD. We're adding support for public clouds, so the ability to build out an image that will run on top of Amazon EC2. Also, in newer versions of SUSE Studio On-Site, we have the ability to build out a DVD installer. So this way, you boot the system off of a DVD, and it will automatically copy the image down onto the hard disk itself. Obviously, if you've got stuff on the hard disk that you don't want to lose, I wouldn't recommend installing an image on it because it's going to blow everything away. Question?
Do you support multiple OS of Linux type variants?
No, so we only support SUSE. Okay. Sorry, the question was, do we support other operating systems other than SUSE? And the answer is no, only SUSE.
Can we export this as a VM appliance?
Excuse me?
Can we export this appliance as a VM?
Oh, yes. Yes, so we are going to be building that in as well. So the question is, can you do it as OVF? And we're building that in. Was there another question over there? No. And then the final version that we're building out for this is PXE-based image. So this will enable you to boot your machines over the network through PXE and then load down the image that way. So one of the things that makes SUSE Studio unique compared to other tools that are out there is that you're able to actually go and take the image that you built for a test drive. So the benefit of this is that, as anyone who's gone out and built gold images and things like that, you go and you think that you've made the perfect image, and you go and you install it, and you realize, oh, I forgot this. Then you go back, you make a couple of tweaks, and then you realize, oh, I forgot that. And so it takes a lot of time. But the benefit of this is that regardless of which format you're building it out for, you have the ability to take it for a test drive on your SUSE Studio server before you actually go through all of the work of deploying it out in your environment. And so this allows you to very quickly be able to build out a perfect image. So we're going to accept the Novell EULA here and keep going. So during the initial boot process, some of the things that Kiwi does is actually goes out and does a hardware detection. So it will see the size of the hard disk that you've installed the image on top of, and it will expand to take up the entire disk. We'll go out and do basic hardware detection and configure things such as your video settings. So what I did, for those that aren't familiar with Linux, is I just went out and I just created a file, a text file called demo. And so another really useful thing that SUSE Studio does is it tracks all the changes that are made to your system as it's been booted up and running in test drive. So you can see right here at the top of the list is the demo file that I just created. You can see all of the other files that have been modified, deleted, or added since we first turned on the system. You have the ability to go and take a look and see what the file is, do a diff. So if it's been changed, you're able to see specifically what portions of the file have been changed. One of the reasons why this is very useful is if you have software that has some sort of an installation wizard, you're able to go run the installation wizard in test drive, see all of the different files that the installation wizard has gone and modified, and you're able to take those and add them back into your default build. So this way, when you deploy your image, it's going to be ready to go. You don't have to run through those configurations. And the way you do that is simply by clicking Add. And what that is going to do is it's going to go back into your overlay file section and add that in there. So overlay files are additional files that you want to add to your build. They can be things such as data files, configuration files. If you want to have, say, a script that's run, you're able to load that through here and kick it off through the scripts portion of the configuration. If you have a tarball, it will automatically untar it for you, automatically unzip it for you, and place all the files where they need to be. So one of the new things that we've added to SUSE Studio is something called SUSE Gallery. And so what this is a community of all the people that are out there that are using SUSE Studio, and enables people to be able to actually publish the appliances that they've built. So once you have created your appliance, you have the ability to come in, give it a description, information about it, and then choose which version of the build you specifically want to publish to SUSE Gallery, if that's what you want to do. Question?
Is the gallery, is that like a iTunes where you can...
So he's asking if Gallery is like the iTunes music store. I would say that it is more like the Android marketplace, and the reason why is with iTunes, it's only stuff that Apple approves of and goes through that sort of process. We allow anyone to be able to publish their appliances. So one of the featured appliances that I actually saw today when I booted this up, and it's perfect, is actually the VMware View appliance that I was speaking about. And so one of the really kind of cool things that we've done with Gallery is that you have a couple of different choices for how you want to be able to consume these appliances. So you can see this person has created appliance that will either run off of bootable CD or DVD or off of a flash drive. And so you have the ability to just download this, load them on a DVD or CD or USB stick, or you have the ability to actually come in and to clone the appliance. And so what's going to happen when you click clone, please forgive me, I have a little bit of a slow connection here. But when you hit clone, what that's going to do is it's going to take all of the configuration that this person has done and it's going to load it into your instance of SUSE Studio. And so the benefit of this is that you're now not simply just consuming the stuff that this person has built. You're able to come in and say, okay, well, I want to add this specific piece of software to this appliance that this person has made. I want to be able to add these specific configurations so that it will work perfectly in my environment. And so this is something that I think really is something that we got right. I think this is something that really enables people to be able to use appliances and make them work specifically in their environment. So with that, that's basically it for the demo. Does anybody have any further questions specifically about SUSE Studio? No? Okay, just got to. How does updating work? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's asking how you do the updates. So to give the whole life cycle for it, as I said, when you initially build out your system, it does have the update repository added to it so that when you build out the system, it's going to be based on top of the latest software. After you ship it, obviously, there are updates that need to be applied. So depending on what your environment is today and how you manage your software, that's going to depend on how you want to choose to update your appliances moving forward. So if you have some sort of third-party software that you use, you have the ability to bake those management clients directly into the image itself. As I said, we do have a product, SUSE Lifecycle Management Server. And one of the really neat things about the way that works is that ties directly into SUSE Studio. So you give it the information about where your SUSE Studio server is. That can either be the hosted one by Novell, or it can be one that's running on-site locally for you. And what it's going to do is it's going to tie into the various APIs for SUSE Studio, and it's going to see all of the different appliances that you have built within Studio, and you have the ability to do an adaptation. So basically that's going in and it's changing the file on Linux that tells the system where to look for updates. And so rather than looking directly at Novell for updates, it's going to look at your SLMS server for updates. And also within SLMS, you have the ability to mirror. So you take the updates that we publish, and you have channels that you can distribute out to your appliances. You have the ability to have a production channel as well as a test channel. So this way, you test the updates before you distribute them out to the appliances that you have in the field. You also have the ability to create your own channels. So that can be software that you build on your own, or it can be software that you consume from another ISV. And if you are an ISV yourself, SLMS also has the ability to be able to tie into whatever sort of CRM application you use and be able to have that associated with the builds, or with the updates. So this way, you can tie specific updates to specific customers. If they're not paying their bills, you're able to shut down their updates as well. So any other questions about updating? Yes? That doesn't matter. Yes.
And the one where you would run it internally, is that for cost?
That is for cost, yes.
And then you notice that the routing was actually enterprise Linux.
Mm-hmm.
What's the implication then about an ISP? Am I paying something to Novell for each virtual appliance I should, or how does that work?
Gotcha. So the question is, he's noticed that I've built everything off of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. And by the way, one of the original, when you choose which appliance, or which template you want to start off of, there's the ability to select something like OpenSUSE. So there you can choose OpenSUSE if you wanted to do that. That being said, anyone can build off of SUSE Linux Enterprise. Just like OpenSUSE, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is fully open source. And so as a result, just like any other enterprise Linux distribution out there, we have to make the source to that publicly available to everyone. So you're able to, if you wanted to, build an appliance based on SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and distribute that to your customers without any sort of obligations to Novell financially. That being said, we do not provide the binary updates for free. That's how we monetize on it. We don't provide support for free. That's how I make my salary. So, I would recommend, if you are building appliances that are going to be consumed by customers in a production environment, you want something that's supportable. You want something that's going to be updated and patched and things like that. For people that aren't familiar with Linux, we have OpenSUSE and we have SUSE Linux Enterprise. OpenSUSE is our community-based distribution. It has the latest version of all the different software that is out there, whether it's the Linux kernel or whether it's the other thousands of applications that are included with a Linux distribution. SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is actually based off of OpenSUSE. SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is the version of Linux that Novell supports. It's the version that vendors like VMware standardize on top of. It's the one that they actually go in and do their testing on. So as far as support for different hardware platforms that are out there, support for other ISVs, all the certifications are on top of the enterprise platform. Yes, question?
So how many of your customers actually use the online version versus the on-premise? What kind of usage?
How many of our customers? I'm not sure how it's broken out. We have more people that are using online because it's free. I mean, we have people that aren't enterprises that are using it, right? They're using it for their own home use, and so I would say that's probably larger. The benefit of the on-site version is that you don't have to worry about your proprietary data residing somewhere else, residing off-site. Because you're controlling it yourself, you don't have to worry about us taking it down to do maintenance on it or dealing with other people that are trying to use the system at the same time. Yes, question? So he's asking how you go about automating this. So when you log in, if you click on the Help tab, and then you click right here where it says API, basically all the stuff that I walked you through, you're able to tie in through the API. And so this would enable you to be able to automatically kick off a build. It would enable you to be able to then download it to whatever mechanism you use for being able to push out images and be able to do that from there. Yes? He's asking how SUSE Gallery is tied in with VMware's market. Do you know if there's any integration, Aaron? So right now there's no direct integration with them, but that's perhaps something we'll look at going down in the future. Any other questions about Studio itself? Yes?
When I'm building the appliance, can I provide any other custom attributes that I would like to collect? Because like when you're installing and configuring an application, you might ask for other data from the user. Right? I saw the keyboard time and the locale and things like that, but any other additional attributes?
So you want the user to be able to do some of the customization on themselves? That's what you're asking. So the mechanism you'd use for that is WebYast. And so, as I said, that is the web-based tool that we have for people to be able to do initial configurations for that. And we have published the way that you would go and build a module for that, and you can query the user for whatever sort of information. Another way that you'd be able to do that is with software that's included with SUSE called First Boot. And so what that enables you to be able to do is to ask the user to enter in various information about the system before it boots for the first time. If you actually saw when I clicked on EULA, there was a little error that came up and said you can't get them to enter in a EULA without first adding the First Boot package. And so I'd have to go in and add that to be able to access that sort of functionality. Yes?
Are you able to give a price range on the enterprise software?
No, but if you talk to Jennifer Murphy in the back, she can hook you up with a Novell rep. Raise your hand, Jen. Jen can help you out with that. Any other questions before we finish up with the slides? Okay. So the way this fits in with Novell's strategy at a macro level, at a company level, is intelligent workload management is our strategy as a company. It is the idea is that regardless of where you deploy your workloads, whether they are in the cloud, whether they are physically deployed, whether they are in some sort of another hypervisor, you're able to do so in a policy-driven, secure, and compliant manner. And so SUSE Studio itself fits into the build portion of intelligent workload management. So it's broken up into 4 different steps: build, secure, manage, and measure. And so SUSE Studio allows you to be able to build out your various appliances that are going to be running. And to that, you're able to add security through Novell Cloud Security, as well as different management software we have and measurement software, so you're able to really have a full life cycle for your environment regardless of where it's running. The key takeaways for virtual appliances are that they enable you to be able to simplify your software complexity. They enable you to speed the time to value, so speed the time before you start actually realizing the benefits of your acquisition. And finally, they enable you to act as a bridge to the cloud. So being able to deploy software today that's going to be relevant in your new cloud-based environment down the road. Just as a wrap-up here, we have a couple of other sessions. So Tuesday, we have a session on Don't Move to the Cloud, which is, of course, kind of a play on words, so you can learn more about that. And then we're actually also presenting at a super session with Joe Wagner, who's a VP at Novell, alongside with Raghu, who's also a VP at VMware. And with that, that's all I got. Does anybody have any more questions? Nope? Great. Well, thank you guys very much for coming.